situated here for a minute. Get situated here. Just give me a second. I'm looking for student project. I'm starting at the top of the list here, going through some UVs. I'm going to go faster and faster at each person. I'm starting at the top of the list here. I'm going to start with Amberly Hammock, actually, since I have yours uploaded. Now, not to call you out in front of everyone, but I haven't seen your model since Module 1, so you'll want to stay ahead of the game now. But the first thing I see right out the bat in your model, delete all the history. Alright, and you gotta go through and just go through each module we had before and make sure you have everything in there up to speed. Now it looks like you did a good job with the naming conventions, all that stuff, but you need to just go in there, delete the history, and it should be good. And make sure all the pivots are centered on all these, which seems like you did, and freeze transformations, so you're losing some of that. So delete history, modify freeze transformations, make sure everything's named, which you have, and that's 0, 0. Okay, so that's your modeling aspect. Now I didn't look at this before, I might as well go over it now. Let's do a cleanup. And I am going a little fast because this is stuff that I should have been looking at a long time ago. I'll look for phases with more than 4 sides. It looks like you have some n-gons here that you can fix, but that's all you have in the scene for that, so that's good. And then for the phase with 0 geometry area, it's only on your monitor, so double check that stuff as well. Now for these links, guys, I'm just going to post the order. I'm not going to go through and timestamp this time because that takes like half an hour just to do that. So I'm just going to write in the post the order of which I am doing these. So right here, if we go to stream topics, I'm going to go here and post, edit this. Alright, so we'll start with Amberly. Alright, so just follow that order. Alright. So the assignments were called for UV work today. 5 maps maximum. I can allow you a 6th map if you have really large pieces in your scene, or if you have a lot, but you can probably get everything onto 5 maps. So here, so I'm rebuilding this course, and we're going to be focusing on one 2K map. It'll make things a little bit easier because it's kind of hard. It's not hard. It's challenging to get everything the same resolution on different maps. Nowadays, like, you can put a prop per map, but since we're doing low res modeling, we're going to put everything on one map for a future course. So I like what you did here. You organized all your prop pieces, and now I got to start looking at your layout. So when you present, make sure to take the texture off. So I'm in 2018, and this way you can see the UVs better, and then turn this on. You can see any flipped shells. Now I would recommend for these pieces here, so these could share. However, when you go to bake ambient occlusion, you'll get shadowing on these types of faces here from the books. So if they show up here and you don't have any books here, it'll show up in here as well. So it's like kind of a balancing act, like what you want to do. What I would suggest is maybe if you're doing AO bakes, you could share these shells still. So you can share all these. So you just do one, then just duplicate it. And then when you do an ambient occlusion to bake, you only bake the occlusion for this, That's it. Like, this is the only thing you leave on, and it should run through the videos. In fact, I got to update things because we're going to be using the turtle render. So that's right here. So to bake ambient occlusion, we can launch the render window here. Whoop, not that. Here. So I'll get to this, probably this module or the next module to bake. So what you're going to do is go to turtle, and in here you're going to go to baking. Might as well run through it now. We're going to bake to the texture, okay? And then you select your object, and it says bake selected surfaces. You turn that on, everything else turns off. Alright, so this is later. And oh yeah, render type, you want to do baking. So you switch it to baking, it's going to bake when you render out your object. Alright, and I'll run through this again. You can ignore all this stuff for now. You can open up the common settings, and if you have shadows, we'll take off because we're not doing lights. If you have alpha, you can leave alpha on. Right, and then the texture bake settings, we're going to do 512. Alright, so this is something to worry about later, just pointing this out now. Save the file, and this is where it's going to go, your turtle baked textures. You can also put that somewhere else if you want, like your images folder. The file name, it's going to do baked underscore. I can't remember what these, I'm not like a scripter, so I don't know exactly what this is. $E. That's the file format, I believe, based on this. So you can just go in here and just type a new file name, choose a Targa or JPEG. If you choose a Targa, it's going to give you an alpha image in the alpha channel, I believe, so you can delete that later if you're getting transparency issues. Edge dilation, I believe this is the padding that you get in between shells. I think it's just called dilation now. I could be wrong. This is kind of a, just started using Turtle a year ago. UV range 0.1, and then for shader outputs, you go to custom because there's no ambient occlusion in here. I don't know why they don't put it in here. It's ambient, but that's ambient lighting. You want a custom shader, and then you go in here, and then you choose the, let's go to Maya. You're looking for the ILR occlusion sampler. Okay, so, you know, revert back to this video if you want to get a jump start on occlusion, but you have to have proper and good, well maintained UV layouts. So anything that's sharing, you'll want to put off in another quadrant. So remember, you can just grab the shell like this one. See that sharing? Well, it doesn't look like that's sharing, but say this was sharing. And then you're going to come over to the transform. Here you go to move, and then you can move that 1 unit over. So you move all those UVs 1 unit over. See? I heard there's a way you can hold shift and arrow key. Maybe, I don't think that's useful now. I guess, yeah, arrow key. Arrow key works just as well, but I think it's based on this value. Let me double check. So again, this is all kind of a new UV texture editor as well. So you can do, yeah, so it's based off this value here. Alright, so if you hit 1, hit the arrow key, it'll jump over. So anything shared, put it in a different quadrant, so then this way won't get a double bake. Alright, so now that you have your occlusion in there, then you can go and skip all this stuff. And then you select your object, because it's based on selected objects. Select the textures. We're baking the texture, doing baking. We're going to open up the render window, switch to turtle, and do a render. And it should render the ambient occlusion to your UVs. And what you do with this is you put this on a multiply layer on top of your texture, and it'll create that subtle soft shadowing. Now here's the thing, not sharing is also good too, because you will get a lot of variety. So meaning, so if I go to modeling and turn everything on, sorry, display, show all, and turn everything on, and I re-bake this, so watch the difference. So I'm going to save this picture, and then hit this little button, and now you're going to get ambient occlusion where the books are, okay? You'll get where the TV monitor is, and this is kind of low resolution, so you want to kind of maximize your space if you can, like all these angles. But here on the books, I believe if you look, the difference you can see. Objects are creating inclusion. This is great when you're not sharing shells, because then you have a kind of uniformity or variance throughout your texture. So it's a kind of a balancing act. You want to create it as an individual ambient occlusion, which might work. Then you can share shells and make things a little bit more even. Or do you want to separate every shell and bake the AO a little bit better? In this case, you might want to go baking individual. And then maybe you could, I'm sorry, in this case, you could not share UVs and then do this bake. But I feel like there's a lot of empty areas. You could put another prop or something here. So if you don't share, later when we do ambient occlusion baking, you'll get better results because you get ambient occlusion from the books. But if you go the sharing route, where you're sharing shells, only bake the object and hide everything else. So this way, if you get an ambient occlusion here from the books, it won't, like if it shows up on this shell too, that can cause a problem. Like you'll get shadowing from nothing. And it all makes sense later when we do that. So it's kind of a balancing act. Like what do you want to choose? Since you already did this, maybe just not share. And then if you don't share, you can bake all these together. Alright, so you would have to select all your objects. Actually, you just select, just do one bake at a time. But we'll get to that. Just wanted to run through that. So you can rewind the video and check that out. Alright, in the meantime, so anything that's angled, I would straighten out. Because first of all, it's easier to paint, and if you're on an angle, things get more pixelated. So I would, before you start texturing, go in and really start rearranging these a little bit better. Now what you could do is grab all these shells and go to layout. So you go to modify layout, go to the options here, and you can mess with some of these settings. So I kind of like the legacy method, but you have the unfold layout as well. And you can try to play with a few of these settings here. So if we go to the unfold 3D, here let's just reset. So packing resolution, we're going to do 512, okay, for these maps. Iterations is how many times it's going to pack this before it comes up with a result. So you can set it to like 1 by default, maybe 2. You can ignore pack together, you want non-overlapping. Stack similar, we can turn that off, otherwise it's going to try to figure that out and probably mess up. Shell rotation, we don't want any pre-rotation, pre-scaling, we don't want any of that. We can translate rotate shells, we can leave off. Translate shells, that's just moving shells around, you want that on. You can have it rotate shells, but then you're saying, okay, you can rotate it 9 degrees, up to 360 degrees. That might cause issues if you're starting to rotate a lot, and it will take longer to figure out. Alright, so I might leave that alone, take rotate shells off. Layout settings, texture map size, we can do the 512. And padding is just the spacing in between each shell. So we can do by pixels. And you can say, oh, I want like 4 pixels in between each shell, or 2 pixels in between each shell. Tile padding, I'm not sure exactly what tile padding is yet. People just tell me what it is, and then I figure that out. And then we want the tiles, the UV in the 0 to 1 space. So you want the tiles in the 0 to 1, and then the V 0 to 1. So full square, but you can choose like top half, top left, top right, just choose full square. That's the whole square. Right, and then scale mode is uniform, which means you don't want any rescaling. But, I mean, you can have maybe Maya try to figure out your resolution. Where's that? I can't remember where that was, but you can actually have Maya try to get a resolution for you. See if that works. What I'm going to do here is hit apply and make sure you select the UVs or the object and pack. Now, things aren't like they're rotated because that's how you left them, but it did a pretty decent job of packing. You can try packing it again, see if you get different results. If you do pre-rotation, like rotate shells, it's going to take a lot longer, and it's not as good as if you manually do it, and you're still getting overlapping here, and I'm not sure why that is. We told not to overlap, and it's overlapping anyway. So I'm going to take rotate shells off, but I would get a little tighter and maximize the space a little bit better. And remember, you want these resolutions of these textures to be the same. And if you remember if you work on angles, things get a little more pixelated that way. Alright, so if I choose like the TV and then this, you try to want to maintain the same resolution. So with the, here, let's do these. So I don't like this. So it's kind of hard to visualize because like this is not selected and this is. So using this texture button is kind of annoying sometimes unless you combine all your objects. If I select it like that, I was hoping to select a group and see everything. But that's not going to work. So I gotta just remember. So I'm gonna move these off to the other side. So I just hit the arrow key based on the transform move right here. Set to 1. Alright, and then this way I can grab this. Excuse me. At the same time, and see what we need to do. So how can I maximize this? If this is the only thing on the map, or I think we got that and the mouse as well. Right. So I feel like some of this space could be utilized better. So the mouse, in comparison to this, here I'm going to just combine all those pieces on the same map. So let's combine, let's delete the history. Alright, and then this way. So the mouse needs to be smaller. So anything in the mouse UVs, let's grab the UVs. Alright, these should be smaller because these checkers need to be equal to the monitor. And by doing that, you can actually move that here. You can even move it in here if you wanted to. Maybe move that there. What I would do with the monitor, just for everyone, is maybe cut that edge. So we'll do cut that shell, and then we'll grab the UVs here. Alright, and now I can cut, here I'm going to go cut that corner, cut that corner, maybe cut this, just thinking of ideas. Cut that, let's see, here we also have a cut over here. So if we go to cut and sew, and then we'll do cut, okay, and then we can see where these attach. So like that goes there. So we'll do a move and sew. I kind of like using these menus. Move and sew. And then we have that one. And it looks like you have a weird edge going on. So that connects there, that connects there. If I do a move and sew, move and sew, stitch together. I like my old move and sew. I guess stitch together is the same thing. Yeah, you're getting like, there's an end gun there. So that's why it looks a little weird. So that's something you gotta double check in your layouts there. And the way you UV that and the way you model that. So let's see. Yeah, there's an end gun right here. So it doesn't know how to sew that together. I mean, this is fine. You could just separate this piece out, this back piece, as its own shell if you wanted to, instead of stitching it here. I guess we'll just deal with that for now. Let's do a move and sew. You can also here go to open up view custom shelf, and now you can grab things out of here. So if I want to go cut and sew, move and sew, I can put that here, right here, on my new shelf that I create. So here I can just do move and sew instead of coming in here. So eventually I won't have to use this anymore and create my own shelf here. And that's what I'll probably wind up doing in a rebuild class. Alright, so and then this one can move and sew there. So this, by doing that, I freed up all that space. Okay, so you don't have the open hole anymore. I freed a lot. And now I want this kind of be in the same resolution as this piece. Now I put this in this quadrant just so that it's not overlapping when you're looking at it. Now to get the checkers roughly the same size, it's all about maximizing your space. So let's see, you want to scale this together. Now if I maximize the space on this map, so say I take all these and scale them up, and I fit everything in here. It's nice and clean. It is a challenge to try to get all these shells the same as the other props because they're all on different maps. So that's where you gotta kind of use some artistic license and judgment and try to balance out the resolution as best as possible. So I can still get more space out of this, but then you gotta kind of maximize the space between everything else. So what I would do initially is do everything at once and put the checker pattern on and try to see the balance between everything, and do that outside the 0 to 1 space, and then you start putting the pieces in together, like scaling them all together back into the respective maps, because it's going to be hard to match the resolution of this the same as that. I would have to grab all of these and scale them up more to match the resolution of the monitor more. But I can get close because here I'm going to scale that up just a little bit more. So now I still have room to rearrange some of these shells. So I'm going to grab these shells. So I'm just grabbing a shell, like a bunch of UVs, going control right click to shell, and then move that over here. My 2018 moved that though. It used to be up here, but now it's annoying and it's down there. So I gotta think of a different strategy for how I select things. Or you can double click a shell and move things around. You can still use the rotate tools, but it's not in the menu anymore. I mean, it's up here somewhere. So tools, rotate, and then you come in here. See, it's really annoying. I really miss my shelves. So it's over here now. So you can make a shelf button. But I honestly don't think you can grab them out of here. So where is the rotate? See, I'm just not used to this stuff, but it's right here. So you rotate that just the same way you did in 2017. And this seems like it's under tools rotate. But it doesn't look like, yeah, rotate settings. It's really annoying. I really want a icon for that. Alright. But yeah, you can't, it doesn't look like you can grab this and put it on your shelf. It'd be cool if you hit Control Shift and that goes up there. Maybe if I middle mouse drag. Nope. Alright. So we're kind of stuck with this toolkit. Alright. That's if you're using 2018, which I'm going to recommend if you take this course or other courses in the future. Alright, so here obviously I'm running out of space, but at least the checker patterns are almost the same size, so now I would come in, reduce a little bit more. Alright, but I would do everything together, and then I'll be like, okay, I really need to fit the desk on there, so I'm going to really try to cram it in there. I'm going to lose some resolution, or some resolution is not going to be the same. And then here, like, now I have all these like wasted space, so I might have to increase that a little bit. So it's going to happen. You're going to get a little varied resolutions on this stuff. Okay. So it's good that you separated those out. So I'm going to just go through a little quicker. You could straighten these out. So that's the bottom of the chair. So you're going to do a line tool. So let's see if we have those in here. Tools, align, no unline there. Just trying to see what is available to us. I wonder if the rotate orient shells, nope. Yeah, here's a rotate. Maybe that's the options I need, except it's giving you an angle. That's kind of annoying. Well, I guess that's one option there. So align, here's the align tools, but now you have to go in here. Oh wow, this is really difficult here. Okay, so enough with those tools. We'll just go. Whoa. I'll just go up here instead, and UV editor here. I'm just gonna go to the line tools over here, and then you can do your line right there. I do not like this UV toolkit. It just seems like a waste of space. when I can like putting everything up here instead, but a lot of the tools it doesn't offer the same icons. Like here the align tool, but it doesn't have all those in there. I mean, you could choose these, but it's just, I mean, that doesn't make sense in a bunch of icons. Anyway, I'm gonna quit complaining. But same thing, just maximize your space. You can maybe share the wheels, so pretty much just UV layout one and reduplicate it. Same thing with the arms. And here you can like take this one and we'll do a cut, and then you can stitch like those together. Actually, that was a move and sew, wasn't it? Yeah. So maybe cut those. So we'll do a cut. Alright, and then you can just reduplicate this stuff. Now, it looks like if I hold shift, it snaps in the rotate tool. That could be good. Alright. But I want to move on. But yeah, just go through your UVs, maximize the space a little bit more, and then should be okay. So I'm going to go to Darby next. Darby, right here. Okay, these mental ray errors you're getting, just ignore those. That's just from previous versions that this was created where mental ray was installed. Alright, let's see what you got. I'm going to turn everything on. You got chair, desk, monitor, and that. Okay, so I'm going to right click here, go select objects. Okay, watch what you're doing. Ignore my video where I'm sharing. You only want to share, like, not ignore, but you only want to share identical pieces. So the bottom is not really the same as the top. So because we introduce ambient occlusion now, this is the method you should go for, is making this a separate shell. Like these should be okay if these are the same, so the back compared to the front. That's up to you. I mean, if you want to put the same texture on the front as you did do the back, I don't know if that'll look right. But a lot of these aren't aligning, so I would delete an arm, unfold this. You can go to the tools, smooth, and this is the old unfold tool, and you can do an unfold, and it doesn't, I think this is unfolding as much as it can, so you might have to separate some stitching here. Let's turn you got the border edge on. So what I would do in this case, and UVs can take a while to really go over everybody's project. There's too many people in the class to really, like I can't do the UV layout, the whole UV layouts for you guys, but I can show you little things. Alright, so we'll do a planar map from the top, because right now things are unfolded weird. Or you know what I could do instead? Hold on, I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut this edge. Let's go to 5 mode. Let's turn off texture for now. Let's turn off this for now. I'm going to cut there. So I'm thinking like a box. How do I want this to unfold? Cut there and there. Alright, and shoot, I should have hit the chair. Here, let's just do a cut. So cut, put that on my shelf. Let's cut that. I'm going to hide everything but this chair. Alright, easy. Okay, let's cut here. These are cut, it looks like. Cut here, here. Okay, let's do a cut. And let's get the bottom. So from here to here, we'll do a cut. And I believe you got this side, but just to double check, let's do a cut. And now, we have all these separate pieces, but I can start stitching them together a little bit better. I'm going to unfold this, so let's go to modify our tools smooth. So this should work. And hit the unfold and kind of do that. Okay, you could also go to tools, unfold, and brush these in. So that works. And then there's optimize, which I don't, a lot of this does, like, it just seems like the same. But this is a brush, so the optimize tool it's almost the same as the unfold to me. My favorite tool is this one, the tool smooth, and you just unfold. And now let's go in and realign those edges. In fact, I'm going to take these edges, so these relate to these. So I'm going to take this shell, move this over, let's scale it down to fit a little better. And before I do anything, let's unfold this, so smooth it and unfold a little bit to flatten that out. And this looks like it's the bottom, so it doesn't even matter, but it is going to be a little bit warped. Unless I go in and align some of those edges there. Let's try the tool. Let's try to unfold brush. Try to do that. There we go. There we go, nice and straight. And now we can select these edges and move it so. A little bit better, and now we'll select the whole thing and go either to the unfold. So smooth, unfold, or optimize. Okay, let's try unfold. Get a little brush, cleans that up. Okay, and then what I would do after that is, if you really want these nice, go in here, take those UVs, go in here, go to the align tools. So align under align and snap, and we'll align to the top. Here, we'll align to the bottom, and so on. Okay, so you have to select those. And then you just reduplicate that arm. You could share this. You could even cut this in half and share one half with the other with the chair. I mean, it's a good model, but the UVs need work, and you're a little out of place here. So display, show all, let's bring everything back. We have the desk, so select objects, you have your desk here, those are good. Just make sure nothing's flipped and you're good. You could maximize a little bit more, so just take this and scale it up and get a little bit tighter, which means you might have to just take this shell, move it down. Alright, and watch the overlap. So the resolutions are going to be a little bit different on the desk. You'll probably get away, see, I mean, or not, I mean, this is like 2 times bigger than this. So you could even share the underside with the top, knowing you're going to get an occlusion here. But yeah, so if you bake AO from the keyboard, it's going to show up on the bottom. So I guess this is an okay layout if you're not sharing. I'm just trying to think of ways to save space for you. And then the books need to be done. Those are not done. Yeah, do the books. These are pretty good, just maybe tighter. And then this thing, what is that thing? What is that thing here? Wow, it looks really heavy in topology. I would really lower the poly count on that, maybe like 6-sided. If that's a Wacom pen, you could even go 5-sided and then redo those, because that's a lot of topology for something so small. I'm not going to go through the rest because we got a lot of students here. I don't want to be on here for 3 hours. So that was Darby. Decent. Just work on some of those maps. Alright, James Chin. So I gotta go in here and see if you're in here. Actually, let me minimize this. I got a student folder for models for 201. Let's take these and these. And I don't know if you have them. Maybe you do. Alright. So, in the class, let's see what's going on. Here, I'm going to do that. Just bear with me. Fast forward a minute from now. I don't think you posted James Chin. Let's find out. James. No, you did not. Alright, so you are not here. Amberly, I just went over. Timothy Jankowski, you are not here either. Okay, so it looks like we're having a lot of late people this week. Dylan Lloyd, I don't see you, but just in case. make sure. Sorry guys, I gotta make sure. I don't want to give anyone F's if you are in here. Nope. Okay. Next, Michael Mendoza. You are not in here either. Oh, that's not good. These are due today. Okay, then we have John Peterson, who I haven't seen since Module 1. Michael Redding, not since Module 1. Megan Ross, you are in here. I know. There you are. Okay, so Darby I went over. Viola, you'll be there next. A little later. Schwartz, Zhao, Phil. Okay, I did look at this stuff online, but let's look a little bit further here. Alright. So what do I say to Megan here? Every time I try to UV map the drawer in the nightstand, the program crashes. First, I'll delete the history. That usually will fix things. Deleting the history. Okay, you got your bed map, which is with your pillow. I might put the pillow on the same map as the bed. So here's the bed. I'm not sure what these look like the fold, so God, I miss my old 2017 layout, but let's take this bed, and we don't have any underside geometry, so that's good, and we have these shells. So later when you get to other courses, you'll learn why not to cut or sew edges at hard edges, but for now we can move and sew those. To sew these together, sew those, let's create one big shell. Now you see I can sew those. I'm going to move, actually let's do this side. So let's take all these UVs to shell, that's that area right there. So what I'm going to do here is cut every edge, grab them all and do a cut. So cut. So now when I select this edge, it's only going to move that one, move and sew I mean. So let's turn on, I got those on. I was looking for these colors, but now here I'm going to stitch, move and sew, and then stitch. So here you're getting a little, I mean this is fine, it's UV'd, it follows UVs, but I'm going to do something different with that and keep them straight. So I'm going to take all these edges and let's cut. Okay, and now I'm going to put those here, attach, so move and sew. Okay, and then I'm going to line, let's see where these are. Yeah, let's do that. Line that one to this. And once again, I have to go to this annoying UV toolkit over here. Let's align to the bottom. Alright, now let's try to see what else we can sew. So move and sew. And I think that's for that piece right there, move and sew. Usually I'll put everything together first as one big puzzle piece, and then I'll go in later and decide where to cut if I need space. It works a little bit easier. So here, since these are all separated, I can just come in here and do a move and sew, and it'll pop those in there. See? But you gotta be careful, you might have to realign, but for now, that seems to work well. And I always can do an unfold. I grab all these, okay, and that's grabbing these, okay, because they're all separate shells now. See, if I do this, it's just easier if they're separated. Those little tiny ones, if I come in here and do a move and sew, and they'll pop right in. Alright, like these for example, I would go into those, and then maybe these, let's do that again. Let's grab the edges here and there, and deselect those. Here, I'll just do a cut. So I'm cutting all those little edges, and they go right here. So I'm going to grab these edges, and let's see, move and sew, and right here, move and sew. Whoop. I just want, I don't want that one, I just want these, so let's try move and sew. There we go. Then here I'll just grab these, and I don't want that edge, I'm just control dragging, move and sew there. Okay, now I'm going to go to grab the UVs and go to Tools, Smooth, and let's try to unfold that. Let's go to Tools, Smooth, Option Box, and let's pin, or let's try UV Space. Let's try World. There used to be some iterations here. I wonder if my Maya is messing up, and we're missing that stuff, or it's just that's the nature of the Smooth tool now. Let's just do the Unfold brush. Okay. See, and then once you're done, you can go and align these edges straighter. So that'll be your this area. So I would take like that UV, couple UVs here. UVs can be annoying for some people. I find them fun. I love the tools that do things quick for you, like the Move and Sew, and then the Smooth. Here, I'm going to go back to the Smooth, pin the borders, and then let's try this. Unfold. Unfold. See, it's pinning the borders down, so it won't move on you. Okay, maybe grab that edge. Like if I grab this edge and this edge and do a Move and Sew. So, and then you can align these, like grab these and align, so it's really nice and clean. Here, I could attach these together. So I'm going to cut here, except that one, and I'm going to cut there, so cut, and now I'm going to take these instead, and then these, except for that one, and Move and Sew. I think that'll look better, and you save space, and then you can do a Move and Sew. Oh, we don't want these. Just trying to get those little edges in there, and then take the whole thing, and you can do a regular Smooth tool if you want. So, or you can do the Unfold. I guess the new option is to brush that in, but I'm losing my straight borders, so let's just try Smooth and pin the borders, and let's try Unfold. And once again, I do not like what's going on with these new Unfold tools. Here we can align these edges. So if you find you can't select something, you're probably still in the Smooth setting, so you have to hit Q, W, E, or R to get out of that into back into selection mode here. And then we can align those, So that's how I approach the bed. All right, and then now everything's kind of one piece, and then later it can be like, okay, I want to separate the blanket a little bit. So I got everything stitched, but maybe, this is a different material. So later when you learn in games, you can separate UV shells at materials where there's a new material. So if I can go cut that, okay, and then I can pull that out a little bit from there and separate those out. Not necessarily in this class, but that's something you can do. And I would add the pillow now to that. So you could just grab all these edges and do a Move and Sew. Grab all these and do a Move and Sew. See, you're trying to. The more edges you have sewn, the less seams you're going to get. Now, you could sew these, but once you start sewing these, it'll get stretched. So, think of it a box. Like, how would you lay this out as a box? These are close enough where you could do a Move and Sew. Might see a little warping. I might leave it like that and just paint an edge there. But now I want these UVs to be the same as the bed. In fact, I'm going to do this because I want the bed to maximize the space there. Just like that. Okay, and then this, checkers aren't the same yet, but I'm going to scale that up like that. That's about the size of the pillow UVs, okay? Now if the objects are too big, which in this case they're okay, you can split them off like I did there and then put them somewhere else. Now you want to try to get the same resolution on the bed in a different map. So what you could do is try to maybe put the bed map on with the pillow in this, but you're really not going to have the room. Or at least maybe the rug can go on the same map as like that. So I can take the rug and I'm going to analyze the checker pattern and compare it to the pillow. Maybe like that. So that's the rug size. And maybe give it a little bit more resolution. So that can all go on the same. So now we got the pillow, the bed, and the rug. Anyone here watching? Anyone here watching? No, I don't know. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, is there anything else I could add? I do have some room here, or figure out the size of the other textures and see if they are matching. So I know the resolution of this. So that's what I hate. With this texture thing, you have to have the pieces selected. So either you have to combine them or select both of them to see the texel density. That's why I prefer using the materials, checker material. But here, the size of the lamp is about the size of that. But be careful because you don't want to get too small either. I would say maximize your space, like do everything together, and then figure out what's going on what map. So here, I could probably give more to the bed, like that, but then this shell and this shell would have to be scaled at the same time. So if I do this, and then maximize that, like that, but then this would have to be rotated. I'm going to hit the plus minus to lower that, hold shift. Actually, shift doesn't seem to want to constrain. But anyway, I can move those over here. Try to get my rotate tool. Alright, so that doesn't fit, so I'm going to scale everything together, a little bit smaller. It's just one big puzzle. Now it's just harder when you're trying to deal with 5 different maps. But it's a challenge. Alright. I hit the plus and minus to increase the manipulator size. Alright, so that could be a different layout. You know, maybe combine similar UV stuff for now. So you do a mesh combine, and this way when you select everything, everything's selected, and then you can kind of work with everything together. Use the rotate tools instead of doing this yourself manually. That needs to be bigger. See, now I have room for something else. But just do that with the rest of the pieces, and you should be okay. Brendan Schwartz. Now we got ya. Let's see. I'm going to go into here. Discussion. And Brendan Schwartz, you are right here. I think I looked at your stuff already. I didn't give you a grade yet, but or maybe I didn't. Okay, so looking at your maps, let's see what you have. Resolutions, for the most part, well, a little mixed. You got the desk here that's not taking too much space at all. Wondering, I'm just going to do a test. So don't get confused. So I'm using Maya's texture as opposed to the material texture. So I'm going to turn this off so I'm not confused here. Alright, so the checker pattern of your desk should be about that. Now if I do that, obviously I can't fit that into the 0 to 1 space. So what I might do is maximize this as much as I can, like the bottom and the top. If you looked at what I was talking about earlier about sharing UVs, you got to determine, okay, well, if you're going to share these and you bake ambient occlusion, the ambient occlusion shadowing from the keyboard is going to show up on the bottom too because it's shared in the same space. However, you can bake this individually without the other props, so you just get ambient occlusion from the table legs itself, and then just it's kind of a local ambient occlusion as opposed to everything together. So it's like kind of a balancing act on where and how you want to do your UV shells. All right. I'd say if you want a little bit more realistic, don't share anything. But then you lose the opportunity of maximizing UV space. But I think you could get away with what I just did here because the resolution is almost the same. It's a little bit bigger, but that's the nature of creating large objects. And usually we can just cut those down the middle or something, and split the UVs off, for longer shells. We get the tiling later this semester. Excuse me, I got the hiccups here. Get the tiling. Alright, so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the legs, okay? And here, I'm just going to work on one leg. You can actually delete this. You can actually share these if you want, because any ambient occlusion is only going to come from the table and not from the props. So any shadowing you get will be the same shadowing on that side. Just something to take note of. And you'll learn this later. It'll make sense. But I want to find the seam, so I'm going to put a seam right there so we won't see that. So that's going to be that one. So I'm going to cut that. Let's cut that seam, cut that edge. And now I'm going to sew all those except for that middle edge, so move and sew. And now the table leg seam is right there. You want to keep all the shells together to avoid any potential seams. Now, if you have faces, if I go to wireframe, delete these faces, you're not going to see them, delete those, you're just wasting UV space. Anything that's excuse me, anything that's hidden completely, just get rid of. You'll save a lot of space. Okay, so we got this piece as well. Let's you can delete the bottom. Unless you're flipping the table over in a game, you're not going to see this. And look, you just save yourself doing UV work. And then here, take those edges. I'm going to move and sew. I'm going to take these edges. Here, I'm going to take all these just like I did with Amber Leaves, I believe. And I'm going to cut them, or whoever, Megan's, her bed. I'm going to cut them all. So now, when I do a move and sew, they'll be separate, like that. And they won't warp. And I can do the same thing with that side, wherever those pieces are. Okay, so actually that looks like just one. Or maybe a few more there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, you don't want to warp that, so we'll do that. Okay. I don't think there's any more pieces of that. And then we come in here, since it's such a small piece, you can sew those together. Now if I do this, it'll warp and it might be noticeable. So I'm going to leave that as is. But here, you have it as one piece. And now when you're done, just duplicate this over to the other side. But lay them out first, and those can be shared. And it looks like there's other... this is the table. Okay. Well, you could do the same thing and stitch them to these shells. So that shell could move and sew there. Obviously, scale them up. Make sure they all are matching. So you could do something like that and just put them all around the table if you want. Like, so you can do that, like a move and sew, or you can do a strip, kind of like what you have. Just at the hard edges here is where you can put the seam. So I think you're doing that okay. But now you should be able to have enough room to move all these in position. So you have the legs, which are going to share. If you want variety, feel free to put the other leg on this part. And the other, so maybe you'll have the duplicate legs here, and then these shells can go like here, maybe rotate those. Use the rotate tools though, try not to do it by hand so things stay straight. Right, and you can scale down a little bit if you need to fit, as long as resolution is not being sacrificed. Alright, so I mean I do have to move on, but it looks like you could share the TVs together, except for the screen. So pretty much extract this screen. So here's a little trick. Extract this screen, delete everything but that screen. So you're just UVing that, and then you're going to take this one, you UV it, duplicate it. So you duplicate this, but delete that screen. And then you pop this one back in here, but the UVs are already done for this one and this one. Those are going to share, and the screens will be separate. And then this way you're maximizing some of your UV space. So that's a little thing you can do, a little trick. The ambient occlusion should be fine if you're baking it, because it's only local to the monitor. There's nothing blocking it. So ambient occlusion is a soft shadowing created from other objects. So if you guys aren't familiar with that. So it'll, like this mouse shadow will bake to the desk. But the only thing is, if you have shared shells, so if I put this mouse like here, okay, on top of the monitor for some reason, if I rotate it like that, maybe, I will get a shadow on this screen, right, from that mouse. Now, if this screen is sharing the same UV space as that one, that mouse shadow will show up in this one, even though the mouse is not here. So that's where you have to do the balancing act of, okay, like how many pieces do you want to not share, and how many pieces can you get away with sharing. Alright, otherwise you do a local bake of of ambient occlusion, which will make sense next week, where you just bake it locally to itself, and you just get the shadowing from itself and no other objects. Kind of what I was explaining to Amberly's model in the first part of the demo. Alright, Brendan, but it looks like, yeah, you could use a little work maximizing some space here, so I'll just go with your images instead. Here, like, align these better. They're all rotated. It's easier if they're aligned. You get less pixelation. Your mouse is too heavy. Reduce the topology by triangulating. So remember, you can collapse edges and get rid of some of these edge loops. It's way too small of a prop to add that many polys. The books, maybe, are these books? Where are they? Yeah, you need more. You gotta take up more space with some of this stuff. Some stuff's done okay. The chair is kind of a mess. I don't know if that happened because I'm using a different version than you and it exploded. But double check that stuff. Way too small on the tower. You're gonna realize you're gonna lose a lot of resolution if you start popping too much in like a corner. You want to maximize your space. Now there is a thing where, depending on how far you are in game, if you're really close to an object, if it takes up 500 pixels on your screen, is the closest you'll get, then you dedicate 512 pixels to it. If you're really close, if you get this close, taking up like a 2048 pixels or 1024, then you want to give it a 1024 map. But most games, a tower like this will be this far away maybe. I don't think you'd be that close, so it takes up about 512, maybe less pixels. But 512 is good number for that. Now, since each prop is getting its own texture map, you could, since this is a 512 map that we're going to make, you could maximize the space here, like that. Alright, and then maybe put another prop in there, but make sure the checker patterns are the same, which they almost are. So I can put that on that, like this map. But you gotta play around with it. It's a lot of puzzle work. And here you can, like I showed this earlier, you can cut all these edges. So take all these edges and cut them, and then you just re-sew and re-stitch to the bigger shell. So re-sew that, and re-sew that, and that one, and that one. And now you saved all that space there. See? And I don't know where this is going, but it's jumping around all over. See? Do that. And that. I just freed up a ton of space. Alright, and then you got to figure out, okay, what's going in there. It looks like the hard drive, which you still did not move that face. Alright, when I have you guys do something, suggest something, like I mentioned moving this face in a little bit. I don't know if you did. If you did, I apologize, but that could be in a little bit more. That could cause flickering in game. You know, I'm not going to worry about it. Just, you guys, when you do your UV work, this is going to affect your textures. So if you have good UVs, you're going to have good textures. So here, let's try to match that up better. Now it's funny because later you get to a different course, they say anywhere there's a hard edge on your model, like 90 degrees, you want to cut that from the shell. But in this case, in this class, we are trying to stitch everything into one object here. So I'm going to maybe select that edge, and then move and so, and there we go. So that we can't fit obviously into this, so you just move it off the side. Anywhere there's a change in 90-degree angles or materials, you can separate those shells out too. Alright, I need to jump to pads. I'm running out of time. Okay, so I have no complaints. Just make sure your shells, if you're sharing shells, you want them to be totally identical. So where is this one? Where are your UVs for this? Oh, up there. Okay. Okay, I see what you're doing. It's on the top, and that's okay, but remember what I said. If you're sharing shells, all the shadows from the books, from these, are going to fall on one of those shells here. Which means, so say if you get a shadow from the book on this shell, it's going to show up on every other shell because you're sharing. So, two things you can do. You can separate these all into their own spots, alright, and then you bake the occlusion with everything selected and everything showing, and you get shadows on each individual shell. You can also, number two, maximize your UV space like you're doing. However, you can't get that subtle shadowing. So what you would do when you bake this is bake this by itself, and you're just getting local ambient occlusion into your texture. But even still, that could be a problem. Okay, so if you're gonna share, these need to be sitting perfectly on top of each other. So you can hold V and snap, align this stuff. Okay, but if I bake a local occlusion, this should get a shadowing here and here and here, and it should go on the same shells. Except any shell that's sharing should be 1 unit over. So I'm going to take this shell and then hold shift and deselect everything but that one and hit the arrow key and pop that over. So those should be in here, and that's going to get all the shadowing occurring here. Might sound confusing. Your best bet, if you want the most realistic, is to make every UV its own space, if that makes sense. I mean, this is fine, but it'll kinda, you can't shadow as much, even if you want to paint shadows yourself. Yeah, you would have to think about how you would share it. Now, the other thing you could do, and we didn't really talk about this yet, is you can actually make shadow cards, like polyplanes. So if I grab, say I grab this face, and I'm going to duplicate that face. Duplicate the face, where are we? Duplicate face. Okay, and pull that up. Okay, so this is a separate piece. Alright, I'm going to center the pivot here, do this. My manipulator is really small there. Now let's go to world mode. Okay, so I'm a little bit angled there, which could be difficult. Let's do something like that. So I could, well, this is hard because we're on an angle, but let's just pretend that's straight. You could put an alpha shadow, like a shadow alpha channel there, and everything else transparent. That's an idea that you could do. So your question is, what should you do? Do a test first. See what this looks like when you start texturing it. If you want these sharing, fine, but you're not going to be able to get any shadow effects. It's just going to repeat on all the shared shells. Hopefully that makes sense. Or you can just relay these out individually, which I think is a waste of space, and then you can bake those all into the texture. Same thing with the table and everything else that needs to be shared. Like this will work fine because everything's a separate piece. Except for this one, I believe I don't know what that is, but the red shell can go over 1 unit this way, because nothing's occluding this. Nothing's going to create a shadow on those, so the shadow you get from this edge will be the same as that edge, so you can share that stuff. But the tabletop should be separate from the base if you want the shadowing from all your objects. If not, if you are sharing, then I recommend when you do shadows, you hide this, everything, and you just do a local bake, which actually could cause a problem here. Alright, well, we'll just work with it. For now, what you're doing is fine. We'll just have to see what kind of results we're going to get. Hopefully that all makes sense. It will next module. Maybe I can use yours as an example. But now would be the best time, everybody, to go through and really think of how you want to plan out your UVs. Now you got the base work done. Go through and see what else you can do here. Remember, anything shared will get the same shadow. Anything that's not shared, it's a little bit easier. Everything will bake individually. So this is cool. Looks like you have a lot of shared shells here. but just make sure they're identical. You don't want to share this leg with this. I mean, you could, but the shadowing will be different. But these are identical to this one, so you can share those. And that's what happens when you work with a scene. You know, because you have a lot of props intersecting with other props. Usually we'll just put that all on one map now. Like all this can just go on one big map. It'll be a little easier to work with. So yeah, just make sure these, the red shells are one quadrant over if you're sharing. So remember, you just hit the arrow key. Alright, but make sure you grab the right shell. So usually what I'll do is I'll click that one, and then I'll shift drag to invert that selection, and now go to control right click to shell, and you should grab that red one, and then pop that over with the arrow key based on the values here. So when I hit the arrow key and I go to transform move, it's based on this value, moving one quadrant over. For the most part, though, things look pretty good. Yeah, I mean, these are good. Could sew in some areas, but I think you did a decent job there. Chair could be aligned, or you can maybe cut. I'm trying to think what these are. These seats. I'm trying to think where those go. Maybe put those there, so you can lessen the gap. So if I cut this, I'm just playing with ideas. So cut that, and then sew those. That could reduce some space. And then do the same thing with the other side. Meaning, you take that edge and like this edge and cut, and then do a sew. Seriously, guys, if I had like maybe 2 students in this class, I could literally go over your whole project here with you. But we have a lot of other students, so it's hard to dedicate 20 minutes for each student. So I try to look what I can with one, and then it should relate to the next person I critique. So just go through everyone's critique, see how what I'm looking at, and how you can affect yours. Yeah, the optimize and unfold tool seems a little bit different than it used to be. Let's try. I really want to go through all these and see what they do. Not now, but here, unfold. See how that works. Okay, and then you can just reposition. But pretty good job. Tower is nice. This is okay shared. You might want to move that one, the red one, over one quadrant. Just so it doesn't, the reason we move it over is so it doesn't double bake. It only looks in this quadrant, and if you have too many shells on stock top of each other, it bakes that many times. So it could cause issues. Alright, let's look. Fill. Whoop. Or wait, that was fill. I didn't skip anyone, did I? Charles. Nina, I think I skipped you again. Ooh. Or maybe I skipped Pat last time. This time. Nina, I'll get back to you. I think I skipped over you earlier. But I think I gave you a lot of comments in the thing. I probably don't need to look at it too much. But look at Viola here. Alright, and then I got George Zhao next. Not unwrapped. That needs to be unwrapped. These all need to be... Yeah, that's still the default. Alright, so these need to be done. Still the default. I think you're just throwing stuff up there just to get the assignment credit, but no. I'm trying to look where the post is. Charles, yeah, don't just throw it up there and call it a day. Weird. Let's see. Let's take this texture off. Unless your file looks different than mine. Here's the chair. So I'm trying to look at your images here, and you got a whole bunch, like only 5 maps total maximum. I can maybe give you 6 if you really need it, but yeah, you start combining stuff, and I don't know why I'm not seeing what you're seeing. I think something got messed up in the upload or if you're using 2017, maybe 2000. Yeah, it looks like 2017. I don't know. But these legs need to go on the same map as the chair. All right. But if you look at here's the legs I'm getting, and here's the legs that you're giving me. So yeah, there's something going on with the scene. If you're using 2017, save it as a MA file, which I think you did. Yeah, you did. Whew. Well, okay. So I'll just have to go through these. This must be the table. Okay, just optimize, maximize space. Unfold these a little bit better. The resolution of the desk is kind of large. So yeah, maximize, like scale these up a little bit. Should get more out of that. The tower. Wonder if you could put something else over here. You can look at the other people, how I cut this hole out. Like I cut all these edges out and then I re-sewed elsewhere to save up more space. Keyboard. I mean, you're dedicating a whole map to a keyboard. Those checkers should be the same size as the monitor. These two are a little off. The mouse is off. You're giving all the space to one thing. Put this on the same map as the monitor, without destroying the scale either. Like, or don't scale it too far down. Like, don't cram everything in a corner. The mouse, it's on one map. You could easily scale that down to match the resolution of the checkers of this and put it on the monitor map. Alright, so you really need to go through and revisit your UV work there. Yeah, it's just gonna be the same thing, I'm gonna say, as the rest. The chair map with the legs and the back. Like, there's no reason to put the seat. It's a little different. So in film industry, you can give a UV map for each part of a prop if you really want to. But even still, like, they'll probably dedicate a whole 2K map for one prop for film, and they'll put all the pieces related to that prop on the UV map. Some are just material based. Like, some they don't even use textures. They'll throw materials on an object, like a gold ring or something without any texture on it, and doesn't even need UVs. Just gets a material. But in this case, it's for games. Our material is going to be built into our UVs. But you need to rethink how you're laying these out, and you got to go through the old modules and see what we're doing. These will affect your textures, the way you lay these out. George, the same thing with you. You're putting everything on different maps, 5 total, and this looks like the default. Take these checkers off, so take the image off. But this looks like the default cube or lamp or a cylinder. I don't know what you did there. And then here, this must be the chair. You're wasting all the space. You're wasting all that space. Scale all up together and maximize that. Just go through everyone else's post. It's the same thing I'm talking about, but your problem is that you're putting only a little bit on each map. And this looks like a desk, and you're just wasting so much space here. Use the checker as your guide. Try to make everything the same size. This looks like the tower. Again, that could be mixed with maybe the keyboard or the monitor. I mean, don't take this. So this is good. This keyboard could maybe fit something else in here, but this is the size that it should be, like right around there. Not too small, not too big. Not putting the whole thing on one map. You gotta think about how it's gonna look in game, how close are you gonna be to it, and I mean that's a whole nother technical thing. All right, but George, same thing. The same thing I say about all your other maps. Go through and really scale these up better, fix them. And let's jump to Nina, and I gotta call it a day. If there's anyone I forgot, sorry, apologize. But Nina looks like a lot of the comments already made to you, but any red shells, so pretend that's the red shell. I'm just gonna, you move it over so this doesn't get double baked, and those will be fine sharing. The legs can share. There's nothing else including it. So you can just take one leg and reduplicate it, which I think you might have, right? Yeah, that's good. Okay. But any shared shells, even if they're flipped or not, move them one quadrant over. Or just hit the arrow key or transform move in the UE toolkit. And there we go. So now, since there was 5 on top, it would have baked 5 times, but now it'll only bake once. So, grab all these wheels, that one, that one, that one, that one, or whatever. That's on the same leg as this, and then move them over. There you go. So now they won't get baked. And the occlusion will work fine because those are identical. There's nothing occluding that object. Okay, and there's the desk. Losing a little resolution. In fact, I don't think that one's UV'd. Let's double check that one. Be careful how you're sharing. That could cause a problem if you're baking, so it's up to you. But this is like the old school way. They would just put other shells on top of other shells because they're painting all their shadow information and their texture in here, and they just pop things in there, stacking. It's fine. It all depends on how you're going to create your shadows. Like, there's just so many ways to do UV work. It's not the only way. It all depends on the game, the type of lighting they're doing. Is it flat lighting? Is it real-time lighting? All depends. So the point of this course is to prepare you for those situations on knowing what to do when the time comes. Are you baking occlusion? Are you not baking occlusion? Are you just going to paint in flat textures? Like, is it a mobile game? There's all these different scenarios, and my job and our job is to get you prepared for any type of situation. Alright, Benita, I think yours is pretty good. So I'm going to head out, and please guys go into the stream and watch. Alright.